Repetition can be verbal, also referred to as perseverating. This is where the person may repeat the same question over and over. Repetition can also be physical, finger tapping or rubbing hands together. People with dementia have little insight or control over this.
When Mom goes into one of her conversational cycles, repeating the same thing over and over again, or if she doubts the validity of something that I've said, I have found it difficult, really challenging.
People struggle with this, and I think some of the things that we can tell people to help them include taking a time out, taking a big break if you're in a communication loop. If you're in a conversation that's a loop and that you realize suddenly you've been around 2, 3, 4 times, you're not escaping, just to take a big breath and to step outside the conversation and try and look back in. Try and decide, is this a conversation worth having? Is this a conversation that's going to have a meaningful outcome?
I find myself in the midst of that feeling of it being a personal affront. I guess I just have to wait until I recognize that I'm having that feeling, and I just kind of talk myself through it and remind myself that this is the dementia, not my mom, and it's certainly not her fault.
He got very anxious at times. He was always worried that he was going to be late for something, usually an appointment. I learned over time not to tell him until about 10 minutes before that he had an appointment. Otherwise, if I mentioned it at breakfast, because he would always say, what have we got on today? So foolishly to begin with, I would say, well, we've got an appointment at 2 or 2:30 this afternoon. He said, fine. So he would immediately get up and go and get his hat and his coat on and get his walking stick out and go and sit on the bench out in the hall and say, okay, let's go. And I said, it's not for another 5 or 6 hours yet. But he had no conception of time.
Hi, Debbie. How nice of you to come over.
Oh, I wanted to see you.
And where's my mother? Why isn't she with you?
Mom, don't you remember? Your mother died 25 years ago. You know that. Don't you remember?
My mother died 25 years ago.
Yes. Yes.
I don't remember.
If she was still alive, she'd be 113 years old. You must remember that.
I'd really like to see my mother.
I know you would, Mom, but you can't. She died.
She will respond emotionally as if she were hearing this news for the first time every time.
Try and decide, is this a conversation worth having? Is this a conversation that's going to have a meaningful outcome?
Just not take it personally and just recognize what's happening for what it is. And try and redirect and go to a happy place.
Oh, hello, Debbie. How nice of you to come over.
Oh, hi, Mom. I wanted to see how you were doing.
Well, I'm just fine. But where is my mother? Didn't she come with you?
I love your Mom. She's such a sweet lady, busy all the time. I was looking at pictures remember, she took us to Hawaii? I took a whole bunch of pictures.
Did we? I don't remember.
I have the album. Would you like to look at it with me?
Oh, yes.
Sure. Here we are.
There's some nice trees.
Oh, those palm trees are just beautiful.
So, who's that?
That's Cousin Nicole.
Oh, and What's she doing?
I think she's trying to surf.
And who's that?
That's Ben.
Oh, I remember Ben.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And look at that lady. That looks just like me.
Well, it is you.
Oh, isn't
Yeah.
that funny? Yeah, in the picture.
One experiences a lot of repetition. And so just being really patient and just pretending that that's the first time I've heard that question.
Often we realize when we're the caregivers that this is something that might have mattered before but no longer matters. So whether we reach a conclusion that makes sense to us, that if our loved one or the person who has a diagnosis of dementia is satisfied with wherever the conversation lands, that might be enough.